The quantum core of Stellar Frontier Station hummed with its usual ethereal resonance as Nora Harrison cursed under her breath, her hands deep in the guts of a malfunctioning power converter. The device sparked, singing her fingers through her protective gloves. "Come on, you temperamental piece of junk," she muttered, adjusting the plasma flow regulator. The station's aging infrastructure needed constant maintenance, and as the lead quantum engine specialist, these repairs fell squarely on her shoulders. The station's warning system chimed softly. "Attention all personnel. Diplomatic vessel approaching docking bay 3. Security protocols in effect." Nora barely registered the announcement, focused on preventing a cascade failure that could leave half the station without power. She'd been tracking anomalies in the quantum field matrix for days, and this converter was the likely culprit. Harrison, the sharp voice of her supervisor, Director Reed, crackled through her comm unit. "Status report on Bay 3's power grid." "Almost there," she responded, making another delicate adjustment. "Just need to stabilize the quantum resonance. Make it quick. We've got Nixian royalty incoming, and I don't want any problems." Nora's hands stilled for a moment. The Nixians, an ancient spacefaring race known for their complex social hierarchies and even more complex technology. Their visits to human stations were rare and always politically charged. The converter whined, its pitch rising dangerously. Nora's diagnostic tool showed critical readings across multiple systems. She had seconds to prevent a shutdown. Without warning, the access panel above her head burst open, showering her with sparks. The quantum field fluctuated wildly, creating visible distortions in the air around her. As she reached for the emergency stabilizer, a tall figure appeared in the corridor. The being stood nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent skin that shifted between deep purple and midnight blue. Crystalline patterns traced their way across her face, and her eyes glowed with an inner light that matched the quantum core's resonance. Even without the ornate attire, Nora would have recognized her as Nixian nobility. "Your station's quantum signature is destabilizing," the Nixian stated, her voice carrying harmonic undertones that seemed to ripple through the air. "The resonance pattern requires immediate correction." Before Nora could respond, the converter emitted a high-pitched squeal. Acting on instinct, she lunged for the stabilizer just as the Nixian moved toward the converter. They collided, and Nora's hand brushed against the alien's exposed wrist. The effect was instantaneous. The Nixian's skin erupted in a cascade of light, the crystalline patterns flaring brilliant white. The quantum field around them pulsed once, then settled into perfect stability. "I'm so sorry," Nora started to apologize, but the words died in her throat as she saw the expression on the Nixian's face. It was a mixture of shock, wonder, and something else. Recognition. 2 heavily armed Nixian guards materialized at the corridor's entrance, their weapons trained on Nora. The noble raised a hand, stopping them. "I am Princess Vera of the Eternal House of Nix," she announced, her voice carrying a weight that seemed to bend reality itself. "And you have just initiated the sacred bond." Nora's diagnostic tool clattered to the floor. "The what?" "Among my people, skin-to-skin contact is reserved only for those who share a quantum resonance pattern. Soulmates, in your simple terms. Such contact initiates an irreversible bonding process." The guards lowered their weapons but remained tense. One spoke rapidly in their native tongue, causing the princess to straighten even further. "The laws are absolute," Vera declared. "You have 24 Earth hours to either complete the bonding ritual or face execution for violating royal sanctity." Director Reed chose that moment to round the corner, datapad in hand. He froze, taking in the scene. His lead engineer, still holding the stabilizer, face smudged with grease, standing far too close to an alien princess whose skin was literally glowing. "Harrison," he said slowly, "please tell me you didn't just cause an interstellar incident." Nora looked at the perfectly functioning converter, then at the princess whose quantum resonance somehow matched her own, and finally at the guards whose weapons could easily reduce her to her component atoms. "Actually, sir," she said, managing a weak smile, "I think I just got engaged." The princess's lips curved in what might have been amusement. "Your engineering skills are impressive, Nora Harrison. Let us hope your diplomatic abilities prove equally adept." The bonding ritual involves 7 trials, each testing different aspects of compatibility. 7 trials in 24 hours. Nora's mind raced through the implications. What happens if I fail? Then we both die, Vera stated matter-of-factly. The quantum bond, once initiated, cannot be severed without fatal consequences to both parties. Survival requires completion. Director Reed's datapad slipped from his fingers. "I'll inform Station Command," he managed, backing away slowly. Nora looked at her grease-stained hands, then at the ethereally beautiful princess who was apparently now her quantum-ordained soulmate. The converter hummed contentedly behind them, its problem solved by their accidental collision. "I don't suppose any of these trials involve quantum engineering?" she asked hopefully. Princess Vera's crystalline patterns pulsed with what might have been humor. "No, but they do require problem-solving skills, courage, and the ability to adapt to unexpected situations. You've demonstrated at least 2 of those qualities already." The guards took up positions at the corridor's ends, making it clear that Nora's regular maintenance duties were officially on hold. "The first trial begins in 1 hour," Vera announced. "I suggest you clean up and prepare yourself, Nora Harrison. Your life, and mine, now depends on your ability to navigate Nixian royal protocols." As Nora headed to her quarters to wash off the engine grease, she couldn't help but wonder if fixing the converter had been the easy part of her day. The quantum core's hum followed her, now seeming to carry an almost musical quality that matched the lingering resonance of the princess's voice. The next 24 hours would either kill her or change her life forever. Somehow, she wasn't sure which outcome was more terrifying. Nora stood in her small quarters, staring at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. She'd managed to scrub away the engine grease and change into her formal station uniform, but nothing could hide the dark circles under her eyes or the slight tremor in her hands. A soft chime at her door announced a visitor. When it slid open, she found herself face to face with a Nixian attendant, their crystalline patterns more subdued than the princess's, but no less elegant. "I am Lysandra," the attendant said, holding out a package wrapped in shimmering fabric. "Her Highness sends appropriate attire for the first trial." Inside the package, Nora found flowing robes that seemed to capture and reflect starlight itself. The material felt alive under her fingers, responding to her touch with subtle pulses of light. "The resonance chamber awaits," Lysandra announced. "Please follow me." As they walked through the station's corridors, Nora noticed the usual bustle had been replaced by tense silence. News of her predicament had clearly spread. A few fellow engineers watched her pass with expressions ranging from sympathy to curiosity. The resonance chamber turned out to be the station's main conference room, transformed by Nixian technology. The walls rippled with quantum energy patterns, and in the center stood a crystalline structure that hummed with familiar frequencies. Princess Vera waited inside, her royal attire even more magnificent than before. The crystalline patterns across her skin danced in response to Nora's presence. "The first trial," Vera announced, "tests quantum harmony. 2 souls meant to bond must be able to synchronize their internal resonances, like calibrating paired quantum cores." Nora asked, her engineer's mind automatically seeking familiar analogies. "Similar, though considerably more intimate." The princess approached the crystal structure. "Place your hand here, opposite mine." As Nora complied, the crystal began to pulse with energy. The quantum fields around them shifted, becoming visible as intricate patterns of light. To her surprise, she could feel Vera's resonance pattern. It was complex, ancient, carrying harmonics that spoke of centuries of accumulated knowledge. "Now," Vera instructed, "match my frequency." Nora closed her eyes, drawing on years of experience working with quantum systems. She visualized her own resonance pattern, adjusting it carefully like she would when fine-tuning engine harmonics. The crystal's hum changed pitch. "Remarkable," Lysandra whispered. "She understands intuitively." The quantum fields surrounding them began to synchronize, creating increasingly complex geometric patterns in the air. Nora felt her consciousness expanding, touching the edges of something vast and beautiful. Suddenly, images flooded her mind, fragments of Vera's memories. She saw great crystal cities floating in space, felt the weight of centuries of tradition, experienced the loneliness of a crowned princess bound by ancient laws. When she opened her eyes, she found Vera staring at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You saw," the princess stated. "Yes." Nora hesitated. "Did you see?" The second trial was interrupted by the arrival of an ornate Nixian vessel, its crystalline hull pulsing with barely contained energy. Nora watched from the observation deck as it docked, its presence dwarfing the standard ships around it. "The High Council approaches," Lysandra announced, her usual composure slipping slightly. They were not due to arrive for another cycle. Vera's patterns dimmed noticeably. Someone informed them of the bond initiation. The delegation that emerged from the ship looked like living constellations, their ceremonial armor capturing and reflecting light in hypnotic patterns. Leading them was a tall figure whose crystalline formations seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "High Counselor Drax," Vera greeted, her voice carefully neutral. "Your presence honors us." The counselor's dark patterns rippled. "When I heard that the crown princess of the Eternal House had initiated a bond with a human engineer, I could scarcely believe it." His gaze fixed on Nora, particularly one of such modest origins. Nora felt Vera tense beside her. The quantum resonance between them, still active from their earlier synchronization, carried undertones of concern. "The sacred bond chooses as it will," Vera stated. "Our laws are clear on this matter. Laws can be reinterpreted." Drax moved closer, studying Nora with unsettling intensity. "Especially when the stability of the Eternal House is at stake." The quantum field around them fluctuated subtly. Nora's engineering senses tingled. Something wasn't right. The counselor's resonance pattern seemed artificial, manufactured rather than natural. "Your resonance signature," she said before she could stop herself. "It's off frequency." The chamber went deadly silent. Drax's patterns froze mid-ripple. "How dare you?" he hissed, but Vera had already stepped forward, her own patterns scanning the quantum field. "She's right," the princess declared. "Your signature has been artificially altered. Explain yourself, counselor." Instead of answering, Drax made a sharp gesture. The quantum field around them suddenly twisted, trying to forcibly separate Nora and Vera's synchronized resonance. Pain shot through Nora's body as their connection strained. But the bond held. Their earlier work stabilizing the station's core had strengthened their synchronization beyond what anyone had anticipated. As Drax's attack intensified, Nora reached for Vera's hand, instinctively adjusting their shared frequency to counter the disruption. "Impossible," Drax snarled. "No human should be able to manipulate quantum fields at this level." Through their connected resonance, Nora felt Vera's realization hit at the same moment as her own. "Unless," the princess said slowly, "she isn't entirely human." Memories flooded Nora's mind. Not Vera's this time, but her own long buried. Her mother's strange illness that made her skin glow in patterns. The way quantum systems always seemed to respond to her touch. The sealed records of her birth that no amount of hacking could access. The stellar convergence, Lysandra gasped, when human and Nixian ships were lost in the quantum storm. Some survivors. Interbred, Drax spat. Polluting our pure bloodlines. We thought we had identified all the hybrid offspring. His dark patterns writhed. This one slipped through somehow. But no matter. A half-breed is still unworthy of the Eternal House. The quantum attack intensified. But now Nora understood what she was feeling. The artificial resonance patterns weren't just trying to break their bond. They were attempting to rewrite the quantum signature of reality itself around them. "You're trying to change history," she accused, "to make it so our bond never happened." Vera's patterns flared with anger. "That level of quantum manipulation is forbidden. The energy requirements alone are met by sacrificing the life force of others." A new voice rang out. Director Reed stepped forward, holding a quantum scanner. "I've been tracking unusual energy drains throughout the station. Someone's been harvesting quantum signatures from the crew." Guards moved to surround Drax, but the counselor only laughed. "You understand nothing. The Eternal House must remain pure. The old powers must be preserved. Even now, my agents are accessing your station's quantum core, preparing to—" He never finished. Nora had already released Vera's hand and sprinted for the door. "The converter," she shouted over her shoulder. "He's going to overload it." She ran through the corridors, her quantum-enhanced senses feeling the building instability. Behind her, she heard Vera commanding her guards to secure Drax. Their bond thrummed with shared purpose and urgency. Reaching the quantum core section, Nora found two of Drax's agents attempting to override the safety protocols. Without hesitation, she dove into the quantum field, using her newly awakened abilities to counter their manipulations. The agents' artificial resonance patterns were strong, but they couldn't match the natural harmony she had discovered with Vera. As she fought them in a quantum realm, she felt the princess's presence approaching, their bond growing stronger with proximity. "My blood may be mixed," Nora declared, forcing the quantum fields back into alignment, "but at least it's real. Unlike your manufactured powers." The core pulsed once, then stabilized as Vera arrived with her guards. The agents were quickly apprehended, their artificial resonance dampers disabled. "Do you understand what this means?" Vera asked softly, taking Nora's hand again. Their patterns synchronized automatically now, as natural as breathing. "You're not just any hybrid. You're a descendant of the lost royal research vessel. Your bloodline is still technically royal," Lysandra finished. "The quantum signatures confirm it. She carries traces of the ancient house of stellar harmony." Nora looked at her hands, seeing the faint patterns she had always dismissed as tricks of light. "I just thought I was good with machines." "You are." Vera's patterns danced with what Nora now recognized as affection. "But you're also living proof that our peoples can not only coexist, but create something new and powerful together." She smiled. "I believe that counts as passing the second trial." Before Nora could respond, alarms blared again, but different this time. Emergency lights pulsed in a pattern she had never seen before. "Multiple quantum rifts detected," the station's computer announced. "Reality fabric destabilizing. Breach events imminent." Drax's laugh echoed through the comm system. "If I cannot preserve the old ways, then let reality itself unravel." Nora and Vera exchanged glances, their shared resonance already adapting to the new threat. The third trial, it seemed, would be saving existence itself. Reality buckled around them as multiple quantum rifts tore through the fabric of space-time. Through the station's viewports, Nora could see fragments of other dimensions bleeding through, crystalline cities that never were, dark voids where stars should be, and twisted versions of the station itself. "The quantum core can't handle this level of dimensional stress," Director Reed warned, his voice barely audible over the station's groaning superstructure. "We're looking at total reality failure in less than an hour." Nora's mind raced through possibilities, her newly awakened hybrid senses processing quantum data faster than any scanner. Drax isn't just trying to break the bond anymore. He's attempting to splice together alternate timelines where the Nixian Empire never encountered humanity. "Impossible," one of the council members protested. "The energy requirements would tear the universe apart." "That appears to be his intention," Vera said grimly. Her patterns pulsed in sync with Nora's as they analyzed the deteriorating quantum field. Rather than accept change, he would destroy everything. A violent tremor shook the station. Through their bond, Nora felt Vera's growing concern for her people, both on the station and across the Empire. The princess's sense of duty was overwhelming, centuries of royal responsibility weighing heavily on her consciousness. "There might be a way," Nora said suddenly. "The ancient house of stellar harmony, my ancestors, they were researching quantum harmonics before their ship was lost, weren't they?" Lysandra nodded. "They believed that reality itself was maintained through a delicate balance of resonance patterns. Their work was considered radical, dangerous even, because they suggested that quantum harmony could be achieved between different species." Vera finished. "A theory that our bond has already proven correct." Another rift opened, this one directly in the corridor before them. Through it, Nora glimpsed a version of herself in royal Nixian attire, while Vera appeared in an engineer's uniform. The alternate versions seemed equally surprised to see them. "The rifts are following fracture points in our personal timelines," Nora realized. "Places where our choices could have gone differently." She squeezed Vera's hand. "Which means the focal point has to be the moment of our first touch," Vera confirmed. "When our resonance patterns initially synchronized." Drax's voice echoed through the station's comm system, distorted by quantum interference. "Your bond is an aberration. A mistake I will correct by any means necessary." The quantum core's warnings reached critical levels. Nora could feel the station's systems starting to fail as reality continued to unravel. But something else caught her attention, a subtle harmonic in the chaos, a pattern she recognized from her work with the converter. "The rifts," she said slowly, "they're not random. They're forming a resonance cascade, like ripples in a pond. If we could match that frequency, we could create a counter-resonance," Vera finished, following her thought process through their bond. "But the power required is already here." Nora gestured to the swirling rifts. "Drax's device is pumping massive amounts of quantum energy into the system. We just need to redirect it." Understanding dawned in Vera's silver eyes. "A quantum feedback loop, like what we did with the core earlier, but on a universal scale." Her patterns brightened. "It's brilliant and completely insane. It's also our only chance." Nora turned to Director Reed. "I need access to every quantum-capable system on the station." And she glanced at the council members. "Permission to attempt something that might technically violate several laws of physics." The council members exchanged alarmed looks, but Vera's authority was absolute. "Do it." What followed was either the most reckless or most inspired feat of quantum engineering in human Nixian history. Nora and Vera moved through the station's systems like twin stars in a binary orbit, their synchronized resonance patterns weaving through the fabric of reality itself. They found Drax in the main quantum laboratory, surrounded by crystalline devices pulsing with stolen life force. The fallen counselor's form had become almost abstract, his patterns twisted by the energies he was channeling. "Your efforts are futile," he declared. "The separation has already begun. Soon, all timelines will reset to their proper order." "You're wrong." Nora and Vera spoke in perfect harmony, their combined voice carrying quantum undertones that made the rifts ripple. "The proper order isn't about separation." They raised their joined hands, and reality seemed to hold its breath. The quantum field around them began to sing with possibilities, not just their original timeline, but all timelines, all versions of themselves across all dimensions. Engineer Vera and Princess Nora, Ambassador Nora, and Quantum Researcher Vera, versions where they never met, versions where they met differently, all converging on this moment, this choice. The ancient house of stellar harmony understood. Nora said, feeling the knowledge of her ancestors flowing through her quantum-enhanced blood. "Reality isn't maintained by purity. It's sustained by connection," Vera continued. "By the harmony between different resonance patterns creating something greater than themselves." Their combined quantum signature reached out, touching each rift, each fracture in space-time. Instead of fighting the resonance cascade, they became part of it, turning Drax's weapon against itself. The counselor's eyes widened as his devices began to overload. "No. The bloodlines must remain pure. The blood of stars flows through all of us, Nora and Vera declared. And stars don't care about artificial boundaries. Reality flexed, twisted, and finally snapped back into place. The rifts closed one by one, their energy feeding back into the quantum core, strengthening rather than destroying it. Drax's form collapsed, his artificial resonance patterns dissolving into base quantum noise. As the last rift sealed, Nora felt every version of herself and Vera across every timeline pause for a moment, acknowledging the choice they had made. Not just to save reality, but to prove that differences could create strength rather than weakness. They found themselves back in the resonance chamber, still holding hands, their patterns glowing with unprecedented brightness. The assembled council members and station crew stared in amazement. "I believe," Lysandra said into the stunned silence, "that counts as passing both the third and fourth trials." Director Reed checked his quantum scanner, then checked it again. The station's quantum field is operating at 150% efficiency. That shouldn't be possible. Many things that shouldn't be possible have happened today, Vera said, looking at Nora with newfound wonder. Perhaps it's time we redefined what we consider possible. The quantum core hummed with renewed energy, its resonance matching the harmony of their bond. They had done more than save reality. They had proven that the future belonged not to those who maintained artificial barriers, but to those who dared to bridge them. In the aftermath of their reality-altering quantum manipulation, the stellar frontier station hummed with renewed energy. The quantum core's efficiency continued to exceed all known parameters, creating ripple effects that engineers across the galaxy were scrambling to understand. Nora stood in her quarters, examining her reflection once again. This time, the crystalline patterns beneath her skin were clearly visible, dancing in harmony with her thoughts. The last few days felt like a lifetime, from anonymous engineer to hybrid royalty, from accidental bondmate to reality's defender. The final trials await, Lysandra announced from the doorway. Instead of the formal robes from before, she carried something different. A quantum-infused suit that seemed to bridge human and Nixian design aesthetics. Only 3 trials remain, Nora mused, accepting the suit. After saving reality itself, what else could they possibly test? Lysandra's patterns rippled with what might have been amusement, perhaps the hardest challenges of all, those of the heart. The great hall of the Nixian vessel had been transformed for the occasion. Representatives from both human and Nixian societies filled the space, their contrasting forms creating a visual metaphor for the changes sweeping through both civilizations. Vera waited at the center, her royal attire now incorporating elements of human engineering aesthetics. Their resonance patterns synchronized the moment their eyes met, drawing appreciative murmurs from the crowd. "The 5th trial," announced the eldest remaining council member, "tests commitment. In the face of change, will you stand together?" Before either could respond, a holographic display activated, showing feeds from across both human and Nixian space. The quantum harmonics they had established were spreading, creating unprecedented opportunities for collaboration between the species and unprecedented challenges. "Your actions have already altered the course of both our civilizations," the counselor continued. "Some celebrate this change. Others, images of protests appeared, showing both humans and Nixians who feared the breaking of old barriers. They're afraid," Nora said softly, understanding flowing through their bond. "Fear of change is universal, transcending species." "Yes," Vera agreed, her patterns pulsing thoughtfully. "But so is hope." She addressed the council directly. "For centuries, we have preserved our ways through isolation and artificial purity, but the universe itself shows us a better path. Stars merge, galaxies collide, and from these unions, new wonders are born." Nora felt the truth of it in her hybrid blood. The quantum harmony we discovered isn't just about us. It's a template for what's possible when different patterns learn to resonate together. Their words carried through the quantum field, touching everyone present. Humans and Nixians found themselves experiencing each other's quantum signatures, understanding each other in ways previously thought impossible. The sixth trial, the counselor announced, tests wisdom. How will you lead in this new reality you have helped create? Nora and Vera exchanged glances, their shared resonance carrying months of accumulated understanding. Not from above, they said in unison, but from between. They stepped forward together, their quantum signatures extending to touch the gathered crowd. Through their combined abilities, they created a temporary resonance link, allowing everyone present to experience the harmony they had discovered. Leadership isn't about maintaining barriers, Vera declared, her voice carrying quantum undertones that made her words felt as much as heard. It's about building bridges. And bridges, Nora added, require anchors on both sides. She turned to face the princess, their patterns creating intricate designs in the air between them. We are living proof that differences can create strength. The quantum field rippled with possibility. In that moment, everyone present, human and Nixian alike, felt the potential of their combined future. The final trial, the counselor said softly, tests truth. In all the changes you have wrought, in all the chaos and harmony you have created, what remains constant? Without hesitation, Nora and Vera turned to each other. Their quantum signatures merged completely, sharing not just thoughts or memories, but the very essence of who they were. In that perfect resonance, they found their answer. Love, they said simply, not despite our differences, but because of them. The quantum field erupted in celebration, their combined resonance creating patterns of light that would be studied for generations to come. The great hall filled with cheers from both species, the sound carrying through the station's quantum-enhanced systems. Later, as they stood together watching Earth and the Nixian homeworld rotate in perfect synchronization through the quantum viewer, Nora felt Vera's patterns shift with contentment. "What are you thinking?" she asked, though their bond made the question almost redundant. "About quantum harmonics," Vera replied with a smile. "About how a simple touch can change reality. About how an engineer who fixes things managed to repair division centuries in the making." "We fixed it together," Nora corrected, their patterns dancing in shared joy. "Though I have to admit, when I woke up that morning, I was just planning to calibrate a converter. And instead, you calibrated the course of two civilizations." Vera's hand found hers, their resonance humming in perfect harmony. "Ready to see what we can fix next." Above them, the quantum core pulsed with newfound energy, its resonance matching the rhythm of their combined heartbeats. In its light, they saw not just their own future, but the future of all those who dared to reach across boundaries and find harmony in difference. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, celebrating a love that had not just saved reality, but transformed it into something more beautiful than either species had imagined possible. In the end, it wasn't just about quantum resonance or royal protocols or hybrid bloodlines. It was about two souls who proved that the most powerful force in any universe is the courage to touch, to connect, and to love beyond all artificial boundaries. The converter that had started it all continued its efficient operation, its quantum signature now carrying a hint of harmony that engineers would puzzle over for years to come. But Nora and Vera had already turned their attention to bigger projects. There were, after all, countless other barriers waiting to be bridged, countless other harmonies waiting to be discovered. Together, they had written a new chapter in the story of both their species, and their resonance pattern, unique in all the quantum universe, would forever remind others that the greatest engineers are those who dare to fix not just machines, but hearts and civilizations as well.